you're still talking about force the vote right now. Right now, the squad is helping Bernie Sanders, and they're pushing the Democrats left. Right now, the squad is refusing to vote for the bipartisan infrastructure package until they pass the reconciliation bill. And they've broken Biden. They've broken Nancy Pelosi. They're bending the knee to the squad, and they're targeting the moderates right now. The moderates are being ostracized, right? That's the battle that's going on right now. That's a story I'm going to talk about next. What the hell are you doing? I want to watch this real quick because Brianna Joy Gray is one of the most disappointing creators. She used to be good friends with Michael Brooks, and she was Bernie Sanders' national press secretary, and now she's reduced to this. God, this is so cringe.
Half the left thinks that you shouldn't talk about third parties. Half the left literally calls the other half the dumb left for articulating any value or interest in third party candidates.
Okay, so that right off the bat is a ridiculous, idiotic straw man. No one says never talk about third parties. They say most of the time in the American political system, a first past the post system, where people highly identify with their political party, for a progressive or a leftist to win office, the best route to do that is winning a Democratic primary. However, there are instances where third-party runs make sense. One of the biggest examples of this is in Philadelphia, where we helped elect Kendra Brooks on the Working Families Party ticket. She ran to the left of the Democrats, and she won the first non-Republican, non-Democratic Party city council seat. Because in Philadelphia, the rules provide that the minority party in Philadelphia is guaranteed the second largest party in Philadelphia is guaranteed 2 seats on the Philadelphia City Council. So in that case, there was an opportunity where the leftists could run directly against the Republicans in Philadelphia and take one of their seats away. And that's what we did. That's where it makes sense, where structurally it makes sense for the third party candidate to run. You run as a third party candidate. The reason why we object to third parties in America isn't because we because we care about the Democratic Party. It's because we care about winning. And when it makes sense to run as a third party candidate or a socialist candidate or a Green Party candidate, you do so. But 99.9% of the time, it doesn't work. It's a bad idea. Another example in New York that I often cite, Jabari Brisport ran for city government as a Green Party candidate, and he got, 30% of the vote? He decided to run as a Democratic Party member and primaried a conservative Democrat from the New York State Senate, and he won. Did Jabari change? No. He changed his tactics. And he went from being a loser to now one of the most important politicians at the state level in New York. All he did was decide to run inside the Democratic Party to the left. He didn't change his positions. He didn't change anything. He didn't change his campaign strategy. The only thing he changed was what ballot he decided to run on. And it worked. That's what we're talking about. And most of this third party babble shit is garbage. It's grifters who are not actually putting up serious candidates that have a real chance to win, Bree. And everybody who pays attention to politics knows this. The Green Party has existed for decades, and they have no people in Congress. None. No people in any state legislature. None. No governors. No senators. No congresspeople. No state legislators. What the hell are you talking about? Third party.
Half the left thinks that the other half of the left is monstrous villains who attack women of color for critiquing the efficacy of squad members.
You know, I find this to be really gross because the nature of the attacks on AOC and Ilhan Omar are highly racialized, are highly gendered, and are babble. You're still talking about force the vote right now. Right now, the squad is helping Bernie Sanders, and they're pushing the Democrats left. Right now, the squad is refusing to vote for the bipartisan infrastructure package until they pass the reconciliation bill. And they've broken Biden. They've broken Nancy Pelosi. They're bending the knee to the squad, and they're targeting the moderates right now. The moderates are being ostracized. Right? That's the battle that's going on right now. That's a story I'm going to talk about next. What the hell are you doing? Do you not want universal pre-K? Do you not want a child allowance? Do you not want mandatory paid sick leave? That's what's happening right now. Do you not want the civilian climate corps? Do you not want billions of dollars for home health care? Do you not want hearing aids and eyeglasses and dental care covered by Medicare? What are you fucking doing? That's happening right now. All those things are important expansions of the welfare state, the first one since the 60s. And you're talking about force to vote, which is not a tactic that has anything to do with what's going on right now. Are you talking about politics? What is going on?
Right? One might call them the institutional left, is doing the work, I would argue, of backing people away from exactly those strategies that would create fear.
You are not creating fear in the squad. They're not scared of you because you don't represent a political threat. You want to scare a politician? You represent a political threat. What's a political threat? That means an attack of their base of support, either financially or through the votes. And what you're doing is you're just demotivating the left. You're just splitting. You're just making the left less effective. You're showing the centrist why bother courting the left, because it's never going to be good enough. And they're going to sabotage you with asinine, civically ignorant, dumbass strategies that are cooked up by a failed comedian. What are you talking about?
That is useful for us. And they're doing it under the cover of saying, well, we have all of these team players on the inside. We have to protect them now. The House discourse is silly.
She's about to attack Hassan for buying a house. She's about to attack Hassan for buying a house. Bree, don't make me attack you personally. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I remember you tweeting very openly that you're looking for a rich boyfriend. You went to Harvard Law School. You make tens of thousands of dollars a month from Patreon. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
But when people say, okay, well, my critique of Hassan Piker, and this is a critique that I've seen that I'm articulating. I'm not, staking a claim here.
Cowardly, just asking questions.
But that, because he is opposed to third parties, because he, generally speaking, is, defensive of the...
I'm not opposed to third parties, and neither is Hassan. We're opposed to stupid third parties that are ineffective.
Squad members, because he wasn't supportive of efforts like Force the Vote, that is part of why we're frustrated.
Okay, efforts is a little grandiose, right? I don't think a tweet can ever be described as effort. Do you know when I tweet? When I'm taking a shit. That's my primary time of tweeting. You'll see me tweet a whole bunch of times at the same time because I'm too lazy to schedule tweets. It's just because I'm taking a shit. That's when I tweet.
Frustrated that he has been able to earn so much money.
Or sometimes I do it when I'm in bed or something, and I'm just laying on with my phone,
And buy this house, let's say. And that the people who are doing the best in the left ecosystem are the people, not frankly Jimmy Dore, he's an outlier there, I'd say, but are the people who have kind of closed ranks around lefty institutional actors, perhaps for access reasons, perhaps who knows why.
Okay, so if Hassan doesn't think this is an attack, he's just trying to avoid conflict because this is an outright attack. I don't know what to tell you, man. Questioning him and saying he's a grifter, basically, he doesn't really believe that the squad is effective. He's just doing it for access, is an attack. I mean, it could be sincere sympathies, is to create... She offers that possibility so that you reject it. This is a rhetorical trick.
it could be sincere sympathies. But that's part of what's motivating, I think, this fracture. It's not all superficial.
When I went to seminary, I went to Harvard Divinity School. I lived in Roxbury, and I commuted.
How do you know someone went to Harvard, chat? How do you know someone went to Harvard? They'll tell you. You got it. So you have two Harvard-educated people talking about the voice of the worker. Look at that. By the way, Chris, how much was your house that you're living in with the library? How much was the house that you're living in?
Commuted into Cambridge every day. And that's where I say I learned to hate liberals. All these people sitting around talking about empowering people they never met. They were flying off to Nicaragua to pick coffee a week with the Sandinistas and coming back and talking about it for the rest of the semester. Those are the kind of activists you're speaking about, boutique activists who have traditionally been and remain utterly irrelevant.
That's the force to vote. The squad is in power right now, extracting trillions of dollars in concessions. That's you, Chris. You're that person. Is he fucking totally lacking self-awareness? Dude, what Vanguard clique are you in? How many American soldiers have you defeated? Like, what?
Not important and not worth your time or your energy even responding to.
Oh wait, is it still with Virgil, Texas? Wait, they didn't even change the they didn't even change this? Is Virgil still there? Wow, she deliberately clipped that in bad faith. Oof. So anyway, chat, I'm not Chris Hedges is one of those people that you got to pick the corn from the shit. And it's funny because I replied to this and I was like, this is funny she is saying this to Chris Hedges, who spent most of the 2015 and 2016 savagely attacking Bernie Sanders and the viability of a socialist running for office. So you can go ahead, chat. I'm gonna go ahead and retweet that. Here's a link. You can go like that, comment. And I put some receipts there. Chris Hedges on Bernie Sanders and the corporate Democrats, July 15th, 2015. See, I've been following politics for longer than 5 minutes, so I remember this shit. Bernie Sanders is the only major party candidate for president who favors a single-payer national health insurance system. What's not to like? That's the question Ralph Nader asked Chris Hedges on the Ralph Nader Radio Hour. Bernie Sanders wants to break up the New York banks. He wants to impose a Wall Street transaction tax. He wants to regulate drug prices. He's for full Medicare for all. Everybody in, nobody out. Free choice of doctor and hospital. He wants to get rid of those corporate tax havens. He's pushing for a $15 an hour minimum wage. He wants stronger labor unions. What's not to like? Nader asked Hedges. Because he did it within the Democratic establishment, Hedges said. And if you go look up at Chris Hedges from 2015 and 2016, as Bernie Sanders came out of nowhere and exploded in popularity, it's nothing but backstab, negative, splitter shit about how Bernie Sanders is running as a Democrat. Therefore, none of this is, it's bad. He's not worth supporting. By the way, half of the left running in third parties, where is that? Can you show me the half of the left? It's like the guy who says that it's like the odds of that happening are 50-50. It either happens or it doesn't. Hedges was always a Bernie skeptic, and he said these same reasons before. He isn't news to me. He was never a Bernie fan. Yeah, he's just garbage. He's just garbage. Green Party after 30 years, not a single seat in any state legislature. MPP after 5 years. Not a single ballot access anywhere, just register in 5 states. Also, it's almost autumn and she's still talking about forced to vote. 0 Senate, 0 House of Representatives, 0 state governorships, 0 Senate state upper chambers, 0 state lower chambers, 0 territorial governorships, 0 territorial upper chambers, 0 territorial lower chambers. Wow. What a party, chat. What a party. We should be talking about this. We should be talking about the Green Party. This is something I should spend time on. This is a thing that I should actually think about. Socialism is when you lose elections. Socialism is when you lose fucking elections. So what's happening right now? What's happening right now, chat, is there's a huge civil war happening, and Bernie Sanders and the squad have forced Biden and Pelosi to bend the knee to them, and they're shooting at the centrists. For the first time in my life, the institutional Democratic Party is shooting right. For the first time in my life, it's actually trying to punch right. And what are these people who are supposedly on the left talking about right now? Force the vote, which was never a thing. Never a fucking thing. There's a Reform Party with Jesse Ventura. The Reform Party is more successful than the Green Party. Pelosi and centrists drag budget standoff into wee hours. The speaker proposed a deal to Rep. Josh Gottheimer, hoping to end the centrist rebellion over the budget resolution. Speaker Nancy Pelosi sent House members home after midnight Tuesday following a stalemate after Democrats' $3.5 trillion budget framework that fell short of an agreement after hours of negotiations with Rep. Josh Gottheimer and other centrist holdouts. This is the stuff that we should actually be talking about if you care about things getting better even a little bit. This is the stuff that actually is a thing. And this is what people with like legitimate politics are actually talking about. And I want to just show you some of the stuff that I've been talking about. Let's have some candy. There's some pretty good candy I wanted to show you. All right, let's show you the candy on this, because this is actually important. Per one GOP source, one of the 9 moderate Democrats told GOP members if they don't support the budget, there are threats to ruin his district during the redistricting process and fire a member's relative that works at the White House. Bill Clinton also called to pressure them to support it. Bill Clinton calls up and is like, you know the Clinton body count? Well, it's real. And we're going to put you on it if you don't vote for expanded childcare, pre-K, and community college subsidies. Democratic leaders pushed Henry Cuellar over Jessica Cisneros in Texas, pushed Ed Case over Canela Ng in Hawaii, Carolyn Bordeaux over Nabila Islam in Georgia. Now Pelosi and her leadership team are watching all 3 threaten to blow up the party's entire agenda. Moderate Democrats say President Biden wants a swift House vote on the infrastructure bill, implying that he prefers they do it before the $3.5 trillion budget. But is that actually what Biden is calling for? No, says White House spokesman. The 9 Democrats said the Biden has called on the House to pass the infrastructure bill immediately, implying that he wants a vote on it before turning to the larger budget bill. When asked by the NBC News on Monday if Biden is calling for that, White House spokesman Andrew Bates responded, no. He has been clear that he wants both bills on his desk and that he looks forward to signing each. He supports Speaker Pelosi's approach to the rule because it provides for consideration of the Build Back Better agenda, the historic bipartisan infrastructure bill, and critical voting rights legislation, Bates said in an email. And it's important for us to recognize that the reason why Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden are caving is because of Bernie Sanders. This is Bernie Sanders. This is the squad. This is them actually leveraging their power. And people are talking about just total irrelevancies. And I don't know what it is, why they're so... the problem with these media personalities is they are so undisciplined. They are accountable to no one and no movement. They are the perfect disruption for the left. Because what I'm doing, I'm applying self-discipline. I am trying to align myself with what I see the movement trying to accomplish and pursue and support and educate on that behalf. I'm trying to be a supporter of these desperately needed programs in a critical time because I have an ideology and I have an agenda that I want to see accomplished. These people have a show that they want to fund. Now, listen, chat. I like making money for myself. I like having a secure life. I like when my daily sub goal bar gets filled. I like when it says when X from Y is 0. All right. I like when I see 4,000 subs at the bottom of my screen. I'm not going to lie. That's great. It's not 50,000. You know, you could spread the wealth a little bit, chat. But that is not my only goal. I'm not changing my views in order to get more viewers. Like, socialism when no subs, you're a sham. Tabela. Bernie Sanders' third campaign as chair of the Senate Budget Committee. Sanders' big government message has found its moment. Burlington, Vermont. Bernie Sanders does not want to be mistaken for an optimist. I'm a glass half empty kind of guy, he grumbles as he works his way through the stack of budget documents that are strewn across the desk in his Spartan office on the third floor of the 123-year-old red brick building on the north end of downtown Burlington. That's the image he's fashioned for himself across 5 decades of political campaigning, and he's comfortable with it. But the thing is, for all his genuine cynicism about the political and governing mechanisms he has long decried as corrupt, Sanders keeps erring on the side of what writer Rebecca Solent refers to as hope in the dark, optimism of the will, pessimism of the intellect. Have you heard that before, chat? Who told you that? He's willing to take chances in order to push the boundaries of the possible, to run for and secure a seat in the U.S. Senate as an independent, to bid for the presidency as a democratic socialist, to propose a political revolution. So it shouldn't come as a surprise that from his recently acquired position of prominence and power as chair of the Senate Budget Committee, Sanders has launched a new campaign to achieve the most progressive moment since the New Deal. For Sanders, this is an urgent mission that is about much more than the proposals outlined in the budget plan he joined the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer in outlining on August 9th. It is necessary struggle to address the simmering frustration with politics as usual that Donald Trump and his Republican allies have exploited to advance an anti-democratic and increasingly authoritarian agenda. What we are trying to do is bring transformative legislation to deal with structural crises that have impacted the lives of working people for a long, long time. Whether it is childcare, whether it's paid family and medical leave, whether it's higher education, whether it's housing, whether it's home health care, where an aging population, people would prefer to get their care at home. Whether it is expanding Medicare to take care of dental and eyeglasses and hearing aids, what we are trying to show people is that government is prepared to respond to their needs. That's an echo of the big government could do big good message that Sanders has carried for the past 5 decades throughout all his campaigns. Yet now, for an outsider who has become a somewhat uncomfortable insider, the message has found its moment. Bree is tough for me because she is so brilliant but spends time on nonsense. The left needs black people on the left to fight the civil war in the Democratic Party. The problem with Bree is she's too cynical. And I don't mean like smart cynical. I mean like cynical. Like she knows that Jimmy Dore is an idiot. She's a smart person. She knows Jimmy Dore is an idiot. But she calculates that she'll get more popularity by going after his followers. That's cynical, man. And that's a bad sign to me. Somebody who sells out what they know is smart and in order to pursue bullshit for popularity's sake, for clout, that's a major warning sign to me. Anytime I see someone do something unethical for clout, I mark them down with a red mark in my notebook, and I don't, and I pretty much cut them off. Because if they're gonna do cynical, negative shit to you for clout, they're gonna keep doing it. And you hitched your wagon to AOC for the same reason? No, I think AOC is legitimately doing the right thing. When she says something wrong, I disagree with it publicly. I'm sorry. I like AOC, and I also recognize something that a lot of people on the left are uncomfortable acknowledging, but I'm not, and that is people like leaders. People like parasocial leaders. They like feeling connected with someone and inspired by someone. And for a lot of people, that's Bernie. For a lot of people, that's AOC. For a lot of people, that's Ilhan Omar. And I say good. If it makes you support good policies because you like Bernie Sanders, I don't give a shit. And a lot of lefties, especially lifestyleists, have a problem admitting that parasocial relationships are natural in our society. They happen because of the way our media exists. I shouldn't say natural, but they're constructed by our society. And people are going to feel that way, so you might as well use it for our ends. And I don't give a shit. If you support Medicare for all because you like Hassan, I don't care. The important thing is you support Medicare for all. If you support free college because you like Bernie Sanders, I don't give a shit. You support free college. And I'm going to use every tool at my disposal. And that includes having inspiring, charismatic, attractive people pushing for my policies. If debate and arguments work, then I'll use debate and arguments. If being a super nerd like me works on you, then I'll be the super nerd. I know that I'm a role player, right? I can't serve every role, but I'm a role player. And I'm going to serve that role with pride and gusto, and I'm going to support the other people doing other roles. When I say RP, I'm not talking about D&D. I'm talking about sports. This is a sports analogy, chat. In ice hockey, for example, you have 4 lines. You have 4 forward lines and 3 defensive lines in a traditional rostered setup. And it's impossible to stay out on the ice for longer than a minute. I mean, without becoming totally exhausted. So you go out there and you basically sprint for a minute, then you go back and you rest. And so every hockey team needs to have people that are not as talented as the first line, but soak up a ton of time so those players can rest. And they need to take advantage. They need to play gritty and just try to advance their team's situation and improve it through their line. That means if they go out on the ice and the puck is in their defensive end, their goal in their shift is to advance it so that they have possession in the offensive end. And so when they go to change lines, the rested guys jump off the bench and they're now in a better position than when they went on. So the role players are key to a championship team. I have no problem being that third liner, grinding and helping out the movement. I'd love to be Mario Lemieux, but I don't mind being the third liner. What does the left do with people who are losing faith in electoralism or never had faith in the first place? We just leave them behind? I don't know. I'm conflicted on this issue. Well, you do shit to prove they're wrong. Anyway, let's continue. He's heading to the White House to consult with President Joe Biden about strategy. He's talking on Politico, describes as a central role in the Democratic caucus of a chamber where critics once dismissed him as a left-wing scold. He is appearing with Schumer to declare, not from the sidelines anymore, but from the eye of the media maelstrom, that the wealthy and large corporations are going to start paying their fair share of taxes so that we can protect the working families of this country. Bernie Sanders hasn't changed. Amid the budget documents arrayed across his desk in the old Masonic Temple building in Burlington is a book on Eugene Debs, the labor organizer and Socialist Party presidential candidate whom Sanders has revered for decades. You mean to tell me Bernie Sanders reads about sewer socialism and Eugene Debs? I thought that was a purity test. I thought that was a gotcha question. Suddenly, the Democratic Socialists with ideas that were once labeled radical is being taken seriously by partisans who would not nominate him for president, but who are ready to embrace substantial sections of his agenda. Biden takes the counsel of his former rival, often on the phone, sometimes in private meetings in the Oval Office, one of which secured presidential support for Sanders' proposal for a sweeping build-out of the Medicare program to include full coverage of dental, vision, and hearing care. The most difficult thing in politics and governing is to be pushing ideas that most people in power aren't ready to accept. But when people in power recognize that those ideas are popular and that they're necessary, everything changes. Ben Jealous says the senator has entered a new stage in his long political journey. I think that what has happened is that Bernie went out and talked about these ideas. He showed how appealing they are, and that had an impact. Now that people in power, the president, members of the Senate, are listening. When I spent time with Sanders in Burlington in July, as he was busy building support for a budget plan, the senator was making calls and receiving them at a daunting rate. From cabinet members and progressive allies in the movements he had always aligned with, from White House aides and moderate senators who needed just a bit more cajoling. He was surrounded by spreadsheets, priority lists, and policy proposals, yet he did not seem harried. To the extent that this hyperactive 79-year-old can be calm, he was, or at least focused. Sanders recognizes that he could define only so much of the process. He was angling for a $6 trillion budget plan, and he ended up with a $3.5 trillion package, but that's still, as the senator says, a big deal. The plan anticipates funding to expand Medicare, federal paid family and medical leave protections, major investments in child care, an extension of the groundbreaking child tax credit that was included in the American Rescue Plan, to reduce the cost of higher education and make community college free, to develop initiatives to reduce reliance on fossil fuels, return to old school progressive taxation that really does tax the rich. Sanders' ally Ro Khanna, the Democratic representative from Silicon Valley, says that if anything akin to this budget is adopted, it will be a historic shift in how we view the role of government. And that's what Sanders is counting on, not just for the purposes of budgeting, but for the future of American democracy. Actual Sigma grind set. Debs was also the president of the railway union and organized a very successful strike, although lost later in the Pullman strike, which sent him to jail where he studied socialism and emerged to lead the Socialist Party and was active in the IWW. I love how Pepe La Vie and that community were joking about sewer socialism being relevant, and now I hear about it every month or more in the news. Oh yeah, there's a story that I didn't even cover, chat. Like this, everybody who knows what they're talking about, like this happened a couple weeks ago. Bring back the sewer socialists. Leftists need a new, old pitch to lead America's cities, which was exactly what I was trying to explain to the dumb fuck Vaush. And he was like, you don't know, you don't have a plan. And I was like, well, actually, we have this thing called sewer socialism. Sewer socialism, that's just something you made up. I don't know what it is. Oh, okay. Well, read a book? I don't fucking know. I never read books. I'm cute. Anyway, but go on and you can read this article if you want. Maybe we'll cover it tomorrow. Jeremiah wants me to look at this. Sewer socialists got their name from their perpetual boasting about the public sewer system in Milwaukee. They fought to clean up the pollution of the Industrial Revolution, setting up new sanitation systems, city-owned water and power systems, improving education in Wisconsin. Aw, leftist memes. That's a very small subreddit. Anyway, let's keep going. Why it's imperative that we address these issues today is not only because of the issues themselves, because families should not have to spend a huge proportion of their income on childcare or sending their kid to college, because we have got to address the reality that a very significant and growing number of Americans no longer have faith in their government, that their government is concerned about their needs. This takes on the whole threat of Trumpism and the attacks on democracy. If you're a worker who's working for lower wages today than you did 20 years ago, if you can't afford to send your kid to college, and you see very, very richest people in this country becoming phenomenally rich, you are asking yourself, who controls the government? Does the government care about my suffering and the problems of my family? Sanders argues that restoring faith in government as a force for good is the most effective way to counter threats to democracy. The senator, who has opened up more and more in recent years about his own family's history as Jews who fled Europe but lost most of their relatives in the Holocaust, reads a lot these days about the rise of fascism in pre-World War II Europe, and he is highly engaged with conversations about contemporary threats to democracy. This is not just a reaction to what happened on January 6th when Trump incited an insurrection by supporters in an effort to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. It is a concern Sanders has been speaking to with increasing urgency over the past several years. Sanders devoted much of his speech at the 2020 Democratic National Convention to the topic. At the most basic, this election is about preserving our democracy, he said. I and my family, and many of yours, know the insidious way authoritarianism destroys democracy, decency, and humanity. As long as I am here, I will work with progressives and even with moderates, and yes, conservatives, to preserve this nation from a threat that so many of our heroes fought and died to defeat. Almost a year later, on a summer afternoon in Burlington, I asked Sanders about a reference he made to that speech to Trump refusing to leave office and about even blunter expressions of concern he had made in conversations we had in the fall of 2020. If you recall, I claim pretty close to predicting exactly what Trump would do in terms of his response to the election, he said. I asked people to think about whether he was going to accept defeat and say, oh, gee whiz, good campaign. Congratulations, Joe. How can I help you? That wasn't going to happen. And of course it didn't. Hey, remember when Bernie Sanders was predicting that shit? Do you guys remember that? Do you guys remember this? Mike, sewer socialism is just edgy LARPers doing mutual aid. It's actually the opposite of that, John. It's literally not what it is. Sewer socialism is when you win power at the local level and you demonstrate the effectiveness of leftist politics by materially changing people's living conditions, by increased services. It's the opposite of mutual aid. It's actually the total opposite of that. Anyone could have predicted that, but yet they didn't. Since January 6th, Trump has doubled down on his false narratives about the election. His allies and legislatures across the country have made an ongoing assault on democracy central to their political project. I take this threat of authoritarianism and violence very, very seriously, Sanders says. I don't think that January 6th is a one-time situation. We're seeing the growth of militias and even in rhetoric, the talking about from violence from Trump on down. It really sucks that Bernie Sanders is agreeing with everything that we say on this channel, because it's freaking me out, man. I was hoping that I was being too pessimistic. And then I find out that Bernie Sanders is reading sewer socialism books and talking about how fascism's growing. Sanders voted to convict Trump of high crimes and misdemeanors twice and has evolved into an ardent supporter of efforts to overturn the filibuster in order to pass the Democracy Defending for the People Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. Those reforms are necessary, he says, to preserve democracy, but so too, he argues, is the proposition that government can solve seemingly intractable problems, make the lives of working class people dramatically better. If we do not restore faith on the part of the American people in their government, that we see their pain and respond to that pain, then we have the courage to take on powerful special interests. If we do not do that, more and more people are going to drift toward conspiracy theories, authoritarianism, and even violence. So I think this is a pivotal moment in American history. Put that way, the responsibility is a daunting one, but Sanders got comfortable with daunting tasks a long time ago. Okay, we don't need to talk about his history because I've already talked about that before. When I interviewed Schumer recently, he praised Sanders for his role in passing the $1.7 trillion American Rescue Plan using the Senate's arcane reconciliation process, which allows spending measures to advance without being blocked by the filibuster. Schumer, who relied on Sanders on the Relief Act fight and who will rely again on him if he would when reconciliation is used to approve the budget, recognizing the Vermonter as an essential ally. I've always believed that government is the answer, and that I share with Bernie, he says, echoing Sanders on the vital importance of making government work in this turbulent time. I believe that democracy at risk and we cannot fail. This democracy is at risk, Schumer adds, but if we show people that American dream is still alive and that Biden plan does that in many significant ways, we can restore an improvement. It sounds like Schumer gets it. Does Biden? When I asked Sanders that question in Burlington, he doesn't hesitate. Yes. Interestingly enough, I think he does, Sanders replies. When he talks about the competition between democracy and authoritarianism all over the world, I think he is talking about that. I do believe he understands this. The challenge, of course, is to move from understanding to action. It's not enough to talk about it. You've got to act. To a far greater extent than any campaign since Ronald Reagan, Sanders' campaigns transforms the way people think about government. While Reagan convinced a great many Americans that government is not the solution to our problem, government is the problem, Sanders convinced a great many Americans, especially younger ones, that Reagan was wrong. There's been a real change in about how people think about government, says law professor and author Jennifer Taub, and Bernie was a part of that. One afternoon in Burlington, we took a walk through the city, or to be more precise, a series of stops. Sanders is a fast walker, but he was constantly stopped by locals and visitors from Idaho and Colorado and Texas and other states across the country. They all knew who the senator was. They all felt they could approach him. They all wanted to express their gratitude. Thank you for taking on the corporations. Thank you for talking about taxing the rich. Thank you for telling the truth. Thank you for being there for us. Block after block, we got to the edge of downtown. Sanders stopped and talked for a moment, smiled for the selfies, and moved on. Sometimes he would say, I'm going to need you. We've got some big fights ahead of you. Invariably, the response was, tell us what we've got to do. The fierce loyalty of his supporters and the openness to his message from Americans who might not have supported his presidential bids, but whose respect he's won, makes Sanders a powerful player in Washington. He is a better position than anyone else in the Senate Democratic caucus to argue the populist case for big budgets and bold governance. Democrats, including the presidents, know they need Sanders. That gives him leverage that he never has had before. But with that leverage comes responsibility. I covered Sanders as a presidential candidate, and I saw how hard he worked with activists across the country to build movements for economic and social and racial and climate justice. Now he's campaigning to turn that movement politics into a governing agenda. It's a different kind of pressure, a different level of stress. And for Sanders, who has always preferred grassroots campaigning to roaming the corridors of power, it's not as fun. But this glass half empty guy is not about to miss the chance to pursue a New Deal moment, and in so doing, to renew the promise of American democracy. If you're asking me, was I born to be inside the Beltway player? I was not. I would much prefer to speak to a rally of 25,000 people than get on the phone and talk to some of my colleagues. That's true, he says, as he leans into the next campaign. But this is my job. This is where all my energy is at the moment. I've got to do it, and I will do it. What a fucking Chad, man. What a fucking Chad. We do politics here every morning starting at 10 a.m. 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. You can watch us here on Twitch. We're the morning guy. The morning politics guy. Politics Frogs in every single day, same time, 10 a.m., day in, day out. And we carry you through your morning and early afternoon politics needs. And if you need more, Mike from PA, we have a YouTube channel. We talked about suburbs, the My Pillow guy, Ted Cruz. We talked about DSA. Amazing. Making fun of Tim Pool. Amazing. Look at all of these amazing videos. Get in there, watch them. We have me on Twitter. You got to follow me on Twitter, chat. I'm at 20,614 subs. That means I got like 40 followers on Twitter in the last day. You can do better than that. You can do better than that. Go follow us on Twitter. And of course, join the Discord, where we have an incredible community of left-wing streamers. We have left-wing community. We talk about the stream. We talk about politics. There's gaming content. It's a really awesome, supportive place. Direct action, mutual aid, and you can just let off some steam. And also, you can help produce the show. One of the things I do is I look at the links that are put into the news content suggestions chat room on the Discord. Join the Discord, come hang out, and maybe what you want me to talk about will be part of the next show.